From Glitch HQ on Riverside Avenue in unexpected, ever-changing Minneapolis, this is Nice Games Club, the show where nice game devs talk gaming and game development.
I'm Martha McGarry, and I make nice games.
I'm Steve McGregor, and I make nice games.
And I'm Arthur Croy, I too make nice games. For this week's episode, it's another Nice Games Jam. We've been given a prompt, and we're going to try to come up with a complete game that you can play by the end of the episode. Will it work? We and you are about to find out. And so, if everyone's ready, let's start. What is our prompt, Martha?
Well, my boyfriend...
I'm gearing in. I'm like settling for a tough task ahead.
Yes. Well, it will be a tough task, I think. So my boyfriend Dylan sent us a prompt as per usual. And the prompt is make a puzzle game that requires a text README file or some other sort of text thing that you have to use as a guide to figure out the game. And then as the level progresses, that guide changes to be harder to understand or to tell a weird story or just to taunt the player.
So it could be a puzzle game where when you solve it, you unlock a word in the sentence.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
I don't know. Or like...
I was going to say, it could just be Picross.
Well, I was thinking that because we have these cubes.
Right,
Uh-huh.
yeah, we do have the cubes.
And there could be some clues hidden it could be like a cipher.
So I think the trick is that we're in previous Nice Games Jams, we've built systems.
Yeah.
Right? But this is asking us to come up with some content.
Yes.
Right?
Right, yeah.
Like it's endemic to this type of game, is that there be some choices made that are apart from the mechanics necessarily. Yeah. We might be able to abstract that so we don't have to worry about what it is. We can just, it could be nothing, but then we can say if going forward it would be something,
Yeah.
But for listeners who haven't heard one of our Nice Games Jams, I can give a little bit recap of what we're doing before we get really started. But as you heard, we got a prompt, and we're going to come up with a game, and we've got some props. Martha, can you take us a tour on the toys we're going to be using today?
Yes, so as you can hear maybe, there we have cubes, little colored cubes. They're all different types of colors, green, red, pink, white, brown, other green.
Other green?
And then we have some dice, and then we have the table that we record at in the clubhouse is also a whiteboard. So we have whiteboard markers to write stuff down, and we can erase.
And what we generally have done for these episodes is we just pick a bunch of things independent of the prop, so we don't have to worry about it. And this is what we picked this time.
Yeah.
But this should work out pretty well with the prompt that we've got something to write on, and we've got these cues which we could build content from in a sense.
Right.
Yes.
Or at least have them represent content. Okay, so this text file.
Yes. Right. A puzzle game that requires it. So it requires the text as a guide. Oh, what if every time you complete a puzzle, it just adds more rules to the game?
Oh,
like
sort
that.
of like a sort of Flux idea where each new card can add a rule.
Yes. So what? Oh man. Okay.
What if so the text file has a list of rules in sequence, and you're only revealed one at a time.
Yeah.
And maybe the task you have is to use the cubes to draw or represent something.
Sure.
And then the rules are like you can only have them kitty corner from each other, or you can't use any of the blue ones, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then maybe it gets harder and harder, and then or something. Maybe it's gearing you towards making something. Oh, maybe it's like the puzzle is it wants you to create something like a sailboat.
Sure.
But you don't know that, and then it gives you some rules. Make something with blue and white cubes.
Oh, okay.
And then the next rule is, and maybe I don't know how to make that like a not a foregone conclusion though. Maybe it's competitive, perhaps.
Oh, sure.
I don't know. Maybe there's an actual correct answer. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like okay, so if it's like you have to make something, or you have to get the cubes in a certain configuration. Doesn't necessarily have to be a picture.
Right.
And the rules could be like make every fourth color green or something.
Oh, right. It could be like Mastermind or something.
Yes, like Mastermind.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember the name of that game. It's like, the one with like the different colors, and you have to figure out.
That's good, because then you can evaluate correctness.
Yes.
Which is something a puzzle game needs.
Yeah, right. Oh, okay. So every time you make a guess, you get you'll get evaluated on that, and then you get a new rule.
Maybe the like when the next rule comes, then you have to look at what you've made, and if it doesn't follow the rule, then you have like a limited ability to conform it to the rule or something, or maybe you just lose points. But then that seems unfair because you wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a matter of like maybe we can start out with just seeing what it's like to step by step figure this out.
I mean, the one way we could score this is just how many rules you need in order for you to get the thing.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, if you can get it faster than the rules reveal.
Yeah.
And then we can run that through and see if that's interesting or if you feel accomplished or just random doing that. So 'cause I don't know the answer to that.
Right. So here's the question: who wants to be the rule maker?
Well, you're the one taking notes, Steven.
So I
was the AI last time.
That's fair.
I'm happy to do it again.
Okay, I'll try. We'll give it a shot.
Well, okay, so we should have one person guessing, right? And then have one person writing rules. Maybe it could be that the person writing rules figures out what the person is supposed to make, not the other way.
Yeah, I think that's what.
Sorry.
Yes. Yeah. So I guess the for us here at the table, the difficulty is one of us is going to have to come up with a correct answer, quick enough and away from the others.
Yeah.
So
that's the challenge in having here.
Right. So let's have a notation for this system.
Okay.
So that we can then figure out how. So you can just write it down.
Yeah.
So maybe Martha, you've got the blocks in front of you. So what feels like a reasonable number? Like, is it a 3x3 grid or a 2x8 grid or just a line, a row? What do you think?
Oh, we could do like line land, like making a line, and then you have to swap colors. Like, green ones can only touch yellow ones.
Right. It can be just purely a logic puzzle. Like you start out with you don't like grab from the pool of cubes. You start out with a certain number or a certain set.
There could be different modes, maybe.
Different modes.
To go back to our previous episode.
Increasing the scope by a factor of 2.
Okay. Let's go back to the making a picture one.
Okay.
Well, I kind of like the idea of it being lines because there's a lot of logical rules you can make with that.
And it'll be easy for you to create in the time we have. So maybe you have 2 of each color, and then the goal is to have them in an arrangement. And the rules are no yellows are touching, or the 3 blues need to be this much apart, or whatever. Something like that. So that way you're not grabbing from a bunch of different. I guess it's less of a creative task in that case. But it's something we should be able to get up and going.
Okay,
pretty
that
quickly.
makes sense to me. Okay, so I'll just make a little line here with all the cubes with different colors. You said 2 of each?
I don't know.
We should have more than 2 colors.
It can certainly, or 2 cubes of each.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Just so there's enough variation in your ability, but not like 20 cubes.
Oh yeah,
but not as few as 5. Maybe like I don't know, 10 seems
sounds
reasonable. Because you're gonna have to come up with, and then you can design this backwards. You can come up with the correct answer, and then you can just write your rules based on what it does.
Yeah,
and then we can worry about which order you reveal them in later. You can just reveal them in a random order for now.
Yes.
And then I think the way as a puzzle master you would design this so that it could be solved with a certain number, like it could be like a Sudoku puzzle. You only need a certain amount of information to literally solve it. But the more information you have, the easier it is to solve it.
Right.
We can figure that out. Whoever designs the puzzle for this thing, ultimately.
That's your job, listener.
Yeah. But for now, we can just have you come up with a sequence of consisting of the cubes that Martha has in front of her, and then write maybe 5 or 6 rules that are true about that sequence.
Yes.
And then we can get started.
Okay. So I need to come up with a sequence.
So Martha, what do you got in front of you?
Well, I have one that is brown, red, yellow, brown, pink, green, light green, green, yellow, red.
You get that, Stephen?
That is the sequence? And so I need to make...
No, that is the ones you have in front of you.
Oh, okay.
So the sequence you are directing Martha to create consists of those.
Yes. Okay. I need to come up with a sequence and then come up with a set of rules that relate to that sequence.
Yeah.
That is what I am currently doing now.
Yep.
as you can hear.
So maybe, because that's just going to be a task you've got to get in front of you, and hopefully it shouldn't be too tricky. Martha, maybe we'll fill the dead air with some other interesting topics around what this game could be going forward, maybe?
Yeah.
Like, what do you think about this as a mastermind-style logic puzzle, like abstract, versus maybe what we were originally thinking, more creative? Would we want to, once we come up with a system like this, would we want to develop it further so it's making pictures? Or
we could make it more complex as it goes along.
Yeah.
So like first it's a line, and then you end up with 2 rows.
Right.
And then you end up with 3 rows.
Oh, I see. So you mean progressively as you play it?
Yeah.
Rather than as we design the game.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm
I
saying.
like that a lot.
Different levels, like the first levels would all be lines, and then the next levels would be more complex than that.
Oh, that would be fun, because then you basically like this little mini campaign of like smaller tasks. That's a really good, because that preserves like a nice tight gameplay loop.
Yes. Oh man, and you could make pictures by having each line of like a 3D printed
Right.
thing.
And as you go across, you can use your own intuitive sense to maybe know more information about what the next line is, even though you don't know it by logic.
Yes.
You know it because it's starting to form a picture. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then you could get it faster than the rules come at you.
Yes.
And then you could put a snarky thing
That's
in
where the
there.
high score comes, right? Is being able to beat the logic. Okay. That even themes it a little bit. It's like, if you were to sort of, it'd be promoted as this like human intuition, like human versus computer kind of notion of like the rules are enough.
Can
but
you
can do
beat
better.
the computer?
Yeah, something like that. You know what I mean? Like, because that would be the idea, is that maybe each bit of rules you get, like if we had a kind of competitive mode, it could be your familiarity with the picture versus just following the rules specifically.
Right.
You know?
How would you stop people from just brute force guessing? I guess if you were also timed it, maybe?
Yeah, or maybe you have a certain number of guesses. So Mastermind works where...
Oh, yeah, you only have a certain amount.
Yeah, every guess you make fills up the board until you get to the end of the board, and then that's it, which is sort of interesting. That it could be something like that, or it could just be a matter of how many tries it takes is, just deducts from a score or adds to a negative score or something like that.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah.
But, ultimately, I mean, it's interesting because it feels a little bit like Picross, but more sequenced.
Yes.
Right? And then the logic rules are different. But I think
the rules that you use to figure it out are not like, there are 2 in this row.
Right.
It's more like...
It's the Johnny is older than Sally, but younger than Steve.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like,
oh man, I had a book like that when I was a kid that I got from some gas station or something on a road trip. And man, that was the best.
Yeah.
It's all the puzzles like that where it's like, I'm trying to line up my trophies in order of all these things. And now you have to like figure out based on all these clues or like, that was really fun.
Yeah, I like that. There's a bunch of those puzzles in Professor Layton.
Oh yeah.
And I love those. Those are really fun. It reminds me a little bit of like when you play Sudoku, you sort of mark in little notes of what could be in these boxes.
Yes.
And I play the Windows Sudoku the on Windows PCs. And I've been playing that recently.
There's Windows Sudoku on Windows PCs?
Yeah, there's like a ton of casual games now, not just solitaire. Yeah.
Awesome.
And they're all made by third parties, actually. You get them from like they're not like system utilities like they used to be.
Oh.
A little sad about that, actually.
That's a bummer.
But they are like, branded as if they were, the default. Anyway. My point was that I was playing it digitally, and there's a button you can press to fill in all the notes. So you can scribble in all the possibilities. And that is just a labor task, right? There's no gameplay to that necessarily. And so I was like, oh, well, and I was just sort of doing idly or watching TV. And I'm like, I'm going to see if that takes the fun out. And it super does. Because once you do that, then there's like 2 squares that could only be one number. You fill those in and you start removing notes, and then it just becomes sequenced. And then at the higher levels, you have to do some logic. But for the most part, you can play Sudoku. If you just have the possibilities, you can beat most puzzles very quickly in a way that makes it kind of a bummer. Whereas you play in the newspaper where you're scribbling it out and you're trying to keep a lot of thoughts in your head. Like that is where the gameplay is happening. But it ends up being a much simpler game than I thought it was. Does that make sense?
Oh, does it like show you?
Yeah, well, you can. It's an option, right? But if you press that button, it just highlights what all the squares could possibly be.
Oh.
But if you're the player, you have to do that manually. But there's no skill to that, right? It's just looking at a row, looking at the column, looking at the grid, and seeing what can and can't it be, and then just filling and then taking your note. And there's no challenge to that. It's just labor. And so I was thinking like, oh, if I just press the button that does it for me, does that take the fun out? And it does.
Ah.
And I was kind of disappointed.
Oh.
But, you know.
Is it? Can
So
we help you with
I'm sensitive to that for games that we're designing here. Like, and if it does suffer from that, then how do we make it, like playing Sudoku in the newspaper is more fun because you can't automatically fill in all the notes, you know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Sure.
How we doing over there, Steven?
I think I'm ready.
Okay.
This is real hard.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
fun.
I was trying to think of some in my head for just like what is happening and in front of me, and it's real hard. And so I was like, oh, maybe we should help Steven out instead of talking.
Oh, no.
Well, I think what's going to happen ultimately is that you can just come up with rules that are true about your sequence.
Yeah.
But that may not create a challenge. But that's fine. We're not testing that yet.
Right. Well, let's try it first, and then I can talk about how I did it.
Okay.
I feel like I should write these down. But,
Yes.
Oh, but you're
Here, I'll take care of the writing. Okay. So, Martha, your first sequence is Martha.
Oh, I have to say it right. I was like, it's right here. You can see it.
This is like 3 Nice Games Jams episodes in a row where you forgot that we were recording the podcast.
Okay. So dark green, brown, red, yellow, light green, red, yellow, dark green, pink, brown.
I'm trying to write this down on the thing, but I should just take more of these cubes to actually get it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you've got a sequence there. It's not really important that our listeners memorize it.
Yeah.
We'll see in the next round how we need to notate it. But,
Yes.
So,
Okay.
Steven, what is the first rule?
Okay. The first rule is no same colors touching.
Oh,
And it looks like you actually have that.
I do.
Okay. So then the question for gameplay is like, what do you do in a scenario like that? Like, do you just move to the next rule? Do you get a point? And if you get a point, like, is that earned? Or because it's just random otherwise.
Yeah.
But then later it becomes more, I don't know, maybe it does or maybe it doesn't. I don't know.
I still think to me it makes more sense to make it so that the less rules you have to use to figure out whatever sequence I'm trying to make, the better you do.
Okay.
So
in this case, Martha doesn't get a demerit for needing to do anything right now. Like every time you change the sequence.
yeah, okay. Yeah, I like that.
And like golf, you want the lower score.
Mhm. Yes.
Okay, so that's good. And so maybe a lot of these first rules are, is a matter of chance, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. This one's kind of a complicated rule, but the second rule is if a sequence of colors appears in the line, it must appear again in reverse.
Oh.
So, like, for example, if a white cube and a green cube were right next to one another, it would have to appear as green and white in sequence.
And it's a sequence of any length, it seems.
Yes.
So I like this. I'm not sure how much you intended this, but like it could be where you're not giving us enough information because it's a sequence of 3 or whatever, or it could be that literally any sequence at all. In which case, I don't even know if that's technically possible.
I guess if
the sequence
it's any
is
sequence, then it would just be the whole line, right? But
right,
yeah.
and then that can't be in reverse because there's not enough more cubes or whatever.
Yeah.
But like that does sound like a really fun, wording it in a way that like a little tricky.
Yeah.
Whether that is or not, but something in that neighborhood sounds really fun.
Yeah.
Okay. I have it so that now when it goes, I could make it longer. Yeah.
This also doesn't give you a lot of information because it can still be 100% wrong even if you followed this rule.
That's true. Well,
Maybe what we need is a mastermind system where it does actually tell you a little bit more about how you've done.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's part of the thing. I guess
then it would change the Word document also to be like, to say like, here's what you got.
Right. I can
Here's
be
check.
I can be the ever-evolving Word document.
Yeah.
Yes. The sequence you have there, Martha, works. It is right now brown, red, yellow, dark green, light green, dark green, yellow, red, brown, pink, which does work for the 2 rules I made.
Mm-hmm.
So the third rule.
Are any of them in the right position?
Actually, yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, the thing is like mastermind rules here would be interesting, but it would also just be mastermind.
Oh, that's true. Okay, keep
but,
going.
But
keep
something
going.
like that sounds fun, but let's keep going.
Tell me the next rule.
Yes. Okay. I think this is kind of an interesting thing anyways. I know this is a side, I'm sorry. But what's really interesting is that like I needed to come up with rules so that the way I'm thinking of it is I need to come up with rules so that Martha can make the sequence that I was thinking of.
Yeah.
So I need to, so like we're cooperating in a way.
Oh, so rather than this being something that you pull from a 100 puzzles,
Yeah.
it would be something that someone needs to create.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah. I guess that's different from the prompt, but whatever.
But
we can do what we want.
Yeah, it's true. It's our podcast.
Yeah.
Dang it.
What I like about that is that we would need to then come up with, there's a challenge for the designer there and coming up with ways to make it impossible for the player who creates the puzzle to cheat by saying the first rule is it's red, green, orange, blue.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
You know?
I did not do that. Okay.
Okay, next rule.
Yes, here's the third rule. Green cubes appear before yellow cubes.
And this is left to right, I imagine.
Yes.
So now this is interesting because now there are definitely ways Martha could put this together that she knows will be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now she has 3 green cubes, 2 light one and 2 dark ones in the middle of her sequence.
Right. Yeah.
And that's actually vital to her mirroring of from the previous rule.
Yeah.
But there's yellow on either side, and she needs to change that now.
Yeah.
So the yellow ones come after it.
Yes.
So right now she's got her 3 green cubes followed by the yellow ones, 2 yellows, and then the rest in the sequence. She's putting it together right now. We're sitting with rapt attention.
Yeah. Oh man, this is fun. Watching
so now we have
a
dark green, light green, dark green. And that's a pattern in reverse, I guess. I don't know if that's intended. And then brown, red, yellow, pink, yellow, red, brown. So there's a mirrored sequence at the end there.
Yes. Yep, that matches all of the rules I made. Okay, this is the last rule I made. I hope this works. If not, I guess I'll make up another rule. The fourth rule is pink cubes appear in between red cubes, which you already did.
And that's true.
Well,
So they have to be right in between.
You can decide what that rule really said right now if you like. If you want to tweak it.
No, they don't have to, I guess, according to what I did.
Well,
but
no,
I gotta
like
make more rules.
Yeah, maybe the ultimate thing is that if there's some restriction on what kind of rules you make, then it really becomes a matter of you have to come up with new rules. Because it's actually pretty easy to come up with a rule.
Yeah.
Maybe the difficulty is coming up with rules that fit the restricted pattern that give you a lot of information.
Yeah. So what I could be the one who's getting scored. Like how many rules I have to make.
Yeah, in order to get me to guess it.
Yeah.
Right, and it's just a score you share.
Yeah.
Right?
Ah, cool. Okay, this is really fun.
Yeah, okay. I gotta think of something. Okay.
And that was your last rule.
That was my last rule, so I'm typing it up now.
Okay, so now we're out of rules, and Martha has a sequence that follows all the rules, but doesn't quite match the pattern yet. So now you need to come up with new ones.
Yes.
And so I guess there's a mechanic here where you came up with these rules up to now without knowing what Martha had done. Right. Now you could come up with rules that take into account the pattern that Martha has created.
Yeah, I can.
And so the question is does that make it too easy? Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Or no, it doesn't. Yes, it does. I'm trying to type and listen at the same time. I don't think that it makes it too easy because I still have to. I get to evolve my rules based off of what Martha had done.
It puts more burden on the restrictions we put on these rules, though.
Yeah.
So that you can because you can just say like if only one thing is wrong in Martha's pattern, then you could just tell her to fix that.
Yes.
But if you had a rule that would lead her to do that,
like can you make rules that are swaps? Like where all the red ones are, brown ones should be, or whatever.
I was gonna say, maybe.
You could do that, but not in so many words. So right now you have yellow, pink, yellow, and you could the new rule could be that pink only touches red, and what that tells you is to switch the yellows and reds. Do you know what I mean? And so maybe that's part of the challenge is using the language that we have, restrictive language, to get the player to do something specific.
Yeah, actually, I like that better. We're going to do that.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to type it as I say it. A brown cube must touch a dark green cube.
And Martha is already following that rule.
No. Right now, there is one brown cube that is only touching a red cube.
Any
all
of
brown,
them.
all brown cubes.
Oh, yes,
must
I'm sorry.
touch.
Yes, any of them.
A brown cube, as in like any brown cube.
Yes, any brown cube must touch.
Yeah. If you are to be a brown cube, you must touch.
Right. Otherwise, can you really call yourself a brown cube?
Right.
You're not cool enough.
I like the phrasing of that, in that like it gives a property to one of the things that it has to be true.
Yeah.
Yeah. The language you're using for these rules are really good.
Thank you.
Like,
Yeah, it's really cool.
like it's not revealing too much, and but it's varied enough and interesting, and I like it a lot.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, here's my submission. I have moved the brown cube from the end over to the other end. So now it goes brown, dark green, light green, dark green, brown, red, yellow, pink, yellow, red.
Cool.
So like two little palindromes.
Yes. Yep. Okay.
Still not there.
Yeah. It's weird because I want to hint like how close you are.
Yeah,
But I also
yeah.
don't want to do that because it gives away. I don't.
Yeah,
Some
we
ways.
may want to come up with a system for that, but not just yet.
Yeah.
What I like about this is like this moment of silence where like Martha, you don't have a lot to do right now while Steven works, and when he gives
Well,
you
I'm
a
just
rule,
I'm trying to think of what else it could be
yeah,
with the rules that are already in my head, you know?
yeah. Because the question is for gameplay, because we've moved gameplay now from Martha to Steven.
Yeah, basically.
And so, because really, when Steven gives you a rule, especially at this stage, it's with specific intent in mind, and you're pretty much going to just follow his instructions. So then the question becomes, what do you do, and what's fun for you?
Oh, this is fun.
Because I mean, that's enough then?
I mean, yeah, it's like I'm on the edge of my seat.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
I'm sure you can hear that.
So like.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think, is there something like you come with an alternate pattern, or like you can call an audible, like you can say like you have like 3 opportunities to redo, like when you do a new rule and Steven says nope, not yet, you can have an opportunity to try again before getting a new rule.
Yeah. Like
and you have that as currency to spend perhaps.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I like that because ultimately you're getting scored based off of the rules you make.
Right.
So if Martha has abilities to make or to have more chances,
right,
then
but
you don't have to make more rules.
And there's some risk there too, because sometimes you say like, well, this wasn't correct, and if I do another variation of it, is that going to be likely to be more correct? Is it just the Monty Hall problem?
Yeah.
Or is there some gameplay utility to like, is this guess better than that guess?
Sure. Yeah.
And it may not be the case. It may just be a matter of the interesting choice you make is not what your new arrangement is, but the decision to take your mulligan now instead of later.
Yeah. Oh. Hold on. I got to rewrite this because I realized it won't work right unless I do it this way. Okay.
And then also, like, there's something fun about Martha saying, like, I'm going to try something different, and Steven being like, oh, you were so close.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not being able to tell you that.
I really like that, having mulligans and such.
Yeah.
Okay. Here is my 6th rule. Hopefully it's the final one. A brown cube may not touch a red cube or a yellow cube.
Okay. And right now, the 2 mini patterns are in the middle, a brown cube, then a red cube.
Yes.
So right now, that does seem kind of tricky. So Martha is taking the brown cubes on the outside of that first pattern, moving them inside. So it's green, brown, green, brown, green.
Now we watch Martha.
in her native cube arranging habitat.
Yeah, right. Okay, so the current pattern is now... Are you done with your pattern?
Steven's so excited.
I just want to...
Oh, wait.
Is that your final answer? Okay.
Yes.
In a sense, I not knowing for certain if this is correct, I'm looking at it now, and I don't think there's another pattern that could follow all these rules. But maybe
well, if I switch the reds and yellows.
Yes, that's true.
Yes,
actually,
that's
correct.
true. So yes, the current pattern is dark green, brown, light green. Oh, okay. Dark green, brown, light green, brown, dark green, red, yellow, pink, yellow, red, which is correct.
Hey!
Yay! We did it! Good job.
And so, as you said, there was one other pattern that could have been correct.
Yes. I didn't realize that until you said that, but yes, that is true. Wow, that was fun. Dang, I really like coming up with all those rules.
That's good.
Okay.
All right, switch.
Oh my.
All right, so let's have you switch. So Martha come up with the rules.
Yeah.
Steven will do the pattern.
Sure.
And then as we're getting set up, Steven, you and I can talk about mulligans.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Let's do that so we can figure this out. Yeah. Okay. So I think that it would make sense to have like the 3 rules, and you can just use your mulligans whenever. But like strategically, you want to save them until near the end, so you don't. Unless you feel like.
Well, what's the end?
I guess.
Are you using the same cubes? Sorry.
Yes, let's use the same cubes just for simplicity's sake.
Mhm.
Okay.
So I guess what I'm thinking of is the way I'm thinking of this, how this should work is you have the ability to write up to 4 rules before the other player gets to touch the cubes and mess with them.
Right, because then then you have some strategy that you have to play in advance.
Yes. And in between any of those rule calls, when the player has like submitted their final answer, they can mulligan their choice and make something new based off of the rules that they already were given. I think at
any point.
At any point. You
Okay.
could do it from rule 1, you could do it from rule 0, but don't do that.
Okay. And so then is it a limited amount of mulligans, or are mulligans worth fewer negative points than a new rule? Do you know what I mean? You can take as many as you want. They just,
Well, if you... Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like, let's say the higher the score, the worse you do. So let's say every rule is another 2 points onto your score.
Okay.
Every mulligan is 1 point.
Okay.
So that you could be like, oh, well, I'm going to take a mulligan because that way I'm pretty sure I'm going to need fewer than one rule. And because I know that this is wrong already, that is information to act on.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Or does it, because then you're not saving mulligans, you're just sort of like nervously spending them.
Sure. Yeah. That's a good question.
I don't think one system's better than the other.
I don't necessarily think that either. I'm wondering like how that would feel. I'm imagining that like I guess when you're at like high level or high, if you have a bunch of rules at this point, you just throw all your mulligans and just keep doing it till you get your points because like you have a high score anyways.
Right. Yeah. What can this system be cheesed?
Yeah. The way I'm imagining it is like if you just have a limit of how many mulligans you can use, you can feel free to use it at any point if you feel relatively confident in the rule maker giving you enough rules to make a pattern.
Right.
Whereas if you don't have that, then it feels, I would feel like less likely to use a mulligan as a result of that because like it would,
if each was painful.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay. So that's what we'll go.
Okay.
And then I think I would like to put a restriction where you can only use one mulligan per rule round.
Sure.
That may not be the smartest play, but I feel like probably it just makes sense.
Okay. If you do that, assuming that the rule maker makes 4 rules, then they're encouraged to use all. Well, I guess they don't have to.
Well, no, because then there's a possibility of wasting them, right?
Yeah.
Because like, let's say you're competing with another team, and you've got your 3 mulligans, and you just got to the number of rules that other team got, and you want to beat them.
Yeah.
I'm assuming we're doing a tournament now.
Yeah.
You can just use all your mulligans on the last one, just guessing until you get it right.
Right.
But then that's not strategic play.
Sure.
Strategic play is using mulligans before you need them, or before you can't use them, and because you don't know how many rules are going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, and that can give you information too in future rounds. Okay.
And so.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I like that.
So, like a high level player, let's imagine that those exist, would they would have confidence that they can guess it on the next rule or rule after.
Sure.
So they better use their mulligans, otherwise they're not going to, get them.
Yeah. Okay.
I suppose.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. It's kind of like how in Codenames you have an additional guess if you want, and you can use like what you learned from previous words to like make a guess. Yeah. Okay. I like that as an idea. Okay. Well, let's do that then. So I need to type these.
So how many mulligans? 3.
Yeah, 3 is the game designer's number of choice.
It's true.
Yeah, we could just start with 3.
Yeah.
And we'll see how that goes from there.
So Martha, if you've caught any of what we were saying, will you have a thought on any of that?
Didn't catch any of it.
Okay, cool.
So
I just wanted to make sure we weren't excluding you while you came up with your pattern and rules. How are you doing on those?
I have 3 rules. I need 1 more rule.
Okay.
Yep. So I got to type up these rules. So rules for the game. 1 player creates a set of 4 rules. Is it always going to be 4 rules?
We've sort of locked on that because that's what that seems good. That seems better than 3 in this weird instance.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
5 might be what we land on eventually, but 5 is too many for us to do in multiple rounds right now.
Yeah, I had it when I was doing it the first time. I had a hard time coming up with the 5 rules.
Yeah.
At the time. I feel like in future iterations of this game, there should be a time limit to how long you can take to make rules.
Oh, that's
at least
interesting.
Initially.
Okay.
Actually, it should probably be the case all the time because I feel like I would sit there and try to come up with the optimal rule for this pattern that I've come up with. And it would take me several minutes, and then
Yeah.
everybody's just sitting there bored.
Well, the next conversation we have to have is like the language that you're limited to.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just what you two are thinking is reasonable.
Right.
But from that, we can come up with our set.
Yes.
But then that can also be like, we could say that for the set of 4 rules, there's certain things you can't do. So then they're easier to come up with.
Yeah.
And then once you get to 7 rules, then suddenly you have a new tool, which is you can say that one is correct or that one is incorrect or something perhaps.
I was thinking about that too. Yeah, after you get past the 4 rules, you can start being more specific with your rule set.
Yeah.
I decided not to do that.
Right, that makes sense when we were just running it the first time. But yeah, and then that also keeps it from being just mastermind because then it gives the rule-making player some agency with that information.
Yeah.
And maybe we even treat those like similar to mulligans. You have a limited amount of times to just say how many or say something, and maybe you can do it whenever.
Okay. Yeah.
Although maybe, and so there has to be a reason that doing it early would be not an automatic advantage.
Okay.
Okay, well, we'll deal with that next round.
Yes, seems like Martha's ready because she passed me the cubes.
Uh-huh.
I am ready.
Okay.
We're gonna try.
So Stephen is carefully lining them up
Yes.
for no one but himself.
Yes.
They're all neat and orderly.
Uh-huh. Okay, so this is my pattern. It is brown, dark green, yellow, red, pink, light green, red, yellow, dark green, brown.
Can I call a quick audible and change that light green to white?
Okay, sure.
Just
Oh,
Yep, so we don't have to see saying
that messes one of my clues up.
We're putting it back.
can't you just
Nope,
change?
no, never mind. It doesn't.
We're undoing it. We're
Okay.
undoing the undo. Okay.
Okay.
Well,
so it is
no,
now-
actually, it does change it.
Okay.
Gosh darn it.
Actually, I didn't think of that, but yeah, because even your rules had something about the greens.
It did,
The
'cause I-
category of greens.
I just assumed.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. Never mind.
No, yeah, I mean that.
And that
in the
act-
future, we won't
It
have
does
light
reveal something
colors.
interesting that maybe ultimately we want something that has a complex system like that where color isn't the only category.
Oh,
it
sure.
could be also shape or class
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
That lets you have more complicated and interesting rules.
Yes, and for colorblind players.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good.
Okay. This is the rule that would have broken. Light versions of colors come before the dark versions of the color.
Oh, neat.
So this applies also, you have the 2 reds and the pink. So I assume that also tracks there.
Okay.
Getting a nod from Martha over there.
Okay. Yep. This is right? Yellow
Steven's
and,
putting a lot of thought into this.
yellow and brown aren't related. So I think this.
That's an interesting question. Like, should these rules have some deduction involved? Or should it just be obvious what that means?
Well, it's not right what you did.
Okay. Oh, this is not correct. I did it wrong.
No, because the pink,
It
you
breaks
put the
the
pink
rule.
after the reds.
Oh, yes, I see. I did the opposite of what you told me.
Okay, that fits the rule.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. So the colors are currently brown, light green, pink, dark green, brown, yellow, red, yellow, dark green.
All right, the next rule is brown cubes must touch yellow cubes.
Brown cubes must touch yellow cubes. Okay.
Or as you would say it, a brown cube needs to touch yellow cubes.
Yeah. Just one of them. No.
Okay, that fits the rule.
Yes. Okay.
So now it's light green, pink, dark green, brown, yellow, red, brown, yellow, dark green.
Yes.
3 colors are next to their partner cube.
3 colors are next to.
So there are 3 pairs that are next to each other.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And by partner, do you mean that to be ambiguous or the one of the same color?
The ones of the same color. I didn't know how to say that.
Okay. Well, there's a terminology we could invent, right? That's what partner could mean, you know?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So 3.
3 out of the 4 pairs are next to each other.
Okay. 3 out of the 4 pairs are next. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
You have now broken one of the rules.
No. What did I break?
There
Browns
needs to be like a
must touch
little
yellow.
voice box that comes in this
right,
board game
yeah,
with
okay.
your voice saying, you've now broken one of the rules.
That could be one of the snarky things the rule set then just automatically says. Like,
I'm thinking of like the physics. I mean, this could be a video game very easily or an iPad game or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But what I really want is like one of those 90s electronic board games where you have like little slots and you press the cubes into them and then they are read by a tiny little mini computer
Yes.
that then reads the results to you.
Yeah. I like that. Okay. Well, that doesn't work because now the yellow ones, these aren't touching. The pairs aren't touching. So I put.
they just have to be. One of your rules was that none of the pairs are together.
Yes.
And mine is just that they are pairs.
That there are pair. Oh, there are two cubes next to. Got it. Okay, so this works within the rule sets, right?
Yes.
Okay, so my current order is now light green, pink, dark green, yellow, brown, yellow, red.
And this is it. Like, so I was thinking about this is that at this point, I think there's probably only maybe 2 or 3 other patterns that fit all these rules.
I think so.
Because it's the pink and the light green have to come first, or at least earlier than the others.
Right.
The others are in, or a lot of them are in sets.
Yeah.
The brown needs to touch yellow, which means the yellow has to be the set that's separated.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it could be that the two.
I mean, not necessarily.
Is that not the case?
If browns are touching yellows, that means the browns could be on the outside.
Of course.
Oh yeah.
That's just me biasing word order in a sentence.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's part of.
So that kind of easy mix up makes the solving player, it makes it interesting.
Yeah. And also, like, I have no idea other than the pink is in front of red that like where pink can go or where green should go.
That's
like,
true.
I might have the greens and the reds in the wrong
Pink
order.
could be at the very end, just before the reds. The 2 reds could be right at the beginning, right after the pink. I guess there's many more than I was thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next rule?
Yes.
Next rule is all greenish cubes come before reddish cubes.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
So right now he's got a pink one at the top.
Right. I need to move that back. Put it here. That follows the rule.
There's an interesting thing about, like, I believe the optimal move always is to do the least possible to meet the new rule.
Yeah.
Because you don't have a lot of information if you change other things.
Yeah.
That seems... I wonder if there's a way we could make that a little different, where there's some risk to, like, doing more than just that. But right now, there's no motivation whatsoever to do more than that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard, too, because, like, I could be very close, and if I just make slight changes, I might hit it.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't want to make drastic changes.
Yeah.
Like, I could have swapped the order of the red cubes and the dark green.
Right, but you have no information that that's a better move.
Yeah. So I
guess
do it.
I mean, even the Monty Paul problem doesn't fix it here because that's a much smaller data set, so you don't get that same information.
Yeah. And really, at this point, I don't know when I should use my mulligan. So I don't know how to handle that
because you don't know how wrong you are.
Right. Yeah. We need some indicator to determine how wrong you are.
Yeah.
Something.
You know what it could be? It could be that the mulligans are declared by the rule maker. So, like, try again.
Oh, okay.
Right? And then then it becomes interesting for the rule maker to say, like, but without saying how close you are.
Yeah.
And without being able to tell the person what changes to make.
Yeah.
And then you decide, like, you have an idea of how many possible combinations fit this rule. And then you feel confident enough to say that it's a small enough combination that if I tell them to do a different one, then it will get closer to the results. But if you do that too early, then it doesn't have a lot of value.
Yeah.
But the later you do it, the more value it has. But the later you do it, the more likely it is that you're going to not have the opportunities to redo it.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so Martha, tell me if you want me to mulligan.
Mulligan.
Oh, snap. We're doing it. Okay.
So the latest rule was that the pinks come after the red and pinks come after the greens?
Yeah. Oh, well, nope, I can't do that. The pink. Oh, I could put this here.
Ultimately, it could just be switching the brown and yellow, too.
I suppose that's true, too.
Because I would still follow it. But then that's sort of a silent communication. Like, when Martha tells you a mulligan, you'd like to think that it's the thing you change is related to the latest rule.
Yeah.
And like code names, sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think I'm following your rules now. Is this right?
Martha has a very disappointed look on her face.
I'm sorry. The current order is light green, dark green, yellow, brown, pink, red. I must be.
So Martha,
really
are you out of rules yet?
Yeah, I've got my 4 rules are done.
Okay, so now you got to come up with a new one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hard.
And one that's just not telling you the answer.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Although that's the thing. Hopefully,
yeah. I mean, the easiest. Oh.
I was just going to say, like, at a certain point, I think that's why having specific limitations on the vocabulary, which we haven't done yet, will help, because then you can say, like, oh, this one will just give them the answer, and that should be like a good feeling.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, okay. Yellows come after reds.
Oh. Okay. Yellow's coming. Oh.
So Steven has just taken the pink, red, which was at the very end.
Yeah.
And he put it right after the green. So
Yes.
Ding, 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 ding.
And that's it.
Hey,
okay.
Cool. Okay, yes. So now that this sequence was, light green, dark green, pink, red, yellow, brown, yellow. Cool. I did it. Yeah, this is fun. Dang, this is really fun. Okay, so let's codify the rules, and specifically let's codify the rules of the rules in terms of like what words you can use.
Okay, so should we just start at the top about the rules of this game?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so you have two players. You have a code maker and a code breaker. No, that doesn't make any sense. Two players. That's as far as we'll go.
All right.
You have your set of blocks that you some set. I like that there is one of some and two of others.
Yeah.
That seems to give some variety.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, I think I would favor an even more complicated collection.
Yes.
But for now, this works really well for our testing purposes.
Yeah.
Because you have at least two dimensions to go on, color and set.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you've got those, and then the code maker comes up with an order. It's completely random, and then needs to come up with 4 rules about that. And then we'll get into that discussion about what those rules can be in a moment. Then reads the first rule to the first player. They come up with a pattern that meets that rule, are told if it's correct or not, and then the turns progress one rule after the other. So stages of a turn are revealing the rule, or rather coming up with the rule, then revealing it if that's the case, if you get past 4.
Yeah.
Implementing the rule, and then an optional mulligan or try again call from, I guess, either player. Although there's no real reason for the code maker or the person putting the cubes together to ever really call for it necessarily.
Let's say code breaker. That makes sense.
Yeah?
Let's do that.
Okay.
They're trying to break the code. We probably can't call it code breaker. I think that's a game.
It is a game, but
Just for the ease of saying it right now.
for instead of saying, "Oh, the other player who isn't,"
I know. It just doesn't feel like the right metaphor.
follow the clues to see which player is the one you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, I think it makes most sense for the code maker to do the mulligan calling.
Yeah.
Because I think that they have the most information, and like it's interesting when strategically it would make sense to use the mulligan.
Right.
So I think that's good.
And I think we're finding a lot of the fun in taking more decisions away from the code breaker, and that just still makes me a little nervous. But like maybe it's okay to be a little imbalanced. You could, in a sense. Actually, what might work kind of well for this is you have one code maker and 3 code breakers.
Oh, interesting.
And then the code breakers, then there's just some sort of like competition in the air.
Yeah.
And then that could be enough in a sense.
An alternative thing is it could be like a competitive match where between 2 code breakers, where they one person is the code maker and they finish their thing and they get their score, and then you switch. Then the other person makes their code. And whoever does it better.
Okay.
Whoever can do it in fewest amount of rules and mulligans.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, the tricky thing is if you're playing co-op, but then ultimately competitive, that changes the motivation.
Yes, that's fair.
In a sense.
It does.
I thought it would be against another pair.
There we go.
Although, here's a question. If I'm the code breaker, is there any way for me to do bad on purpose?
No, because I have to follow
the rule. And if I try again, then maybe there's different ways I can try again if I'm trying to not do so great.
Yeah.
So the code maker doesn't get all the points.
Yeah.
But if we made it so, you know what I mean? Like then it would work to swap back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can get to that in a minute. All right. So that's the turn then. That's what we've got so far. Yep. And then we just keep going, and you can call there could be up to 3 mulligans in a round.
Yeah.
But only 1 per rule.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Right. So now we need to determine the rules of the rules.
Yeah, the rules of the rules. This game should just be called Rules.
Okay. Game's called Rules.
Rules the game.
No one will buy it. But all right, yeah. Yes, so I guess the way I was trying to come up with it is, you can't like specifically say this cube goes in this order. Right. And I specifically avoided, and I think you did too, Martha. I avoided saying that this cube needs to be the third cube or something like that.
Yes, you can't specifically say a number.
Yeah. It seems like every rule that both of you created, except for Stephen, your backwards forwards pattern, which is super clever. But for the most part, all your rules were a true or false statement about a colored cube or colored cubes.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know how you can exploit if it's just that rule and nothing else, that might give you enough to go on. I don't think that's interesting enough. But I think that I'm not sure if that can be abused just on that, just using that definition. But if that could be one category, and then we'd have like a couple other categories.
Yeah. The hard thing is the fun about like making the rules is you want to be creative with the rules. So So you can, get as much information in the rule without explicitly saying the thing.
So maybe we say the rules are about what you can't do.
Yeah, I think that's better.
And then you can be like super creative with it.
Yep.
The trick is then we need to come up with all the things you can't do, and then leaving the rest of the universe of things to say available to players.
Only use this cube.
Only for it to be cracked and the game is ruined at some point.
Well,
the meta will evolve. Right?
Yeah.
Thus ruining the game. Yeah. No. Okay, so you can't say where something specifically is. Can you say, you can't say like swap these two
right, you can't give
colors.
Commands necessarily.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting exploit, but it might be okay because it burns rules, right? Yeah. Let's say you're correct, except for one cube needs to be 2 spaces forward.
Sure.
Then you can have a rule about that cube that this color cube can't be after the current one it's after, and then the player knows to move that forward or back. And then you could be like, okay, and then they move it forward, and you're like, okay, this one can't be after that. And depending on the state, right, you may not always be able to come up with a simple rule that tells you the exact thing.
Yeah.
But then you could do like 3 rules in a row that just gets you to the correct answer.
Yeah.
That feels a little cheesy, but also it burns 3 rules.
Yeah, I think
that's probably fine.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, so we encourage rules that emphasize relationships between or anti-relationships between the cubes.
Yeah. And this has to be something that's sort of just like you just have to sort of say, it's hard to really quantify exactly, but because some rules involve you moving multiple things, but you can't say, for example, that reds come after yellows and pinks come after greens. Like that's not one rule.
Right. Yeah, you have to.
But other than just saying you can't do that, I'm not sure exactly how to completely literalize that rule.
Oh, you can only...
Like it's one relationship, I guess, is what you're limited to.
Yes.
Yeah, you can only...
That might be enough.
You can only codify one relationship between the cubes in each rule.
Because I think like the rule you gave about the pattern is a relatively complicated idea, but it is still one relationship.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one set. You have one set of, and the set is, you're comparing
right. But you
things
can't define,
in sequence.
You can't define
but
the
you can't
set.
say like, it's red, green, blue, and then blue, green, red, and they're somewhere in there.
Right. So that's where we need to be specific, is like what constitutes a unit of measurement in this game, essentially. Like a type of cube, a color of cube, a category of cube,
or a sequence of
a set of. Then we need to be more specific there, like a set in order, a set of same.
Yeah.
A set of ascending or descending in color, on the hue wheel. I don't know. That might be. Then we might want to bar that.
Well, yeah, because I kind of cheated a little bit because I grouped the colors together in color families, hues. We'd had a color thing, and I forget all the vocabulary words. Mark, tell the audience what the correct thing is.
Of a
what I
colors?
said, like light green
colors.
And dark green and pink and red, which is just
greens. Like there's
right, but
there's
what do you call that?
I mean,
it's hue or is it
hue? Oh yeah, on the hue wheel, yeah, right. But like the difference between a light green and a yellowish green is the same as between a yellowish green and yellow. Like, so like there's no line between colors, so you can categorize them just by your own language.
Okay. Well, yeah, and I mean you're playing with another player, so you can give them a rule that makes sense for them. It's just like with Codenames.
Yeah, I think the creativity works in our favor here.
Yeah.
I was thinking originally more specific, but because a lot of the play is now in the hands of the code maker, I think it makes more sense to let a little bit of cleverness shine through, even if there's some maybe arguments about the rules. That's probably okay.
Yeah.
But Martha, I don't think you cheated because I think that's about category.
That's true.
I think it's perfectly fine. I think probably where you can't, I would say you should stick to, maybe this is, I don't know, maybe a fair debate about this, but like to say like, let's say there's a purple and yellow, and you want to do something with them, you could say like Vikings colors can't be next to Green Bay colors or something. Like, do you know what I mean? Like you could use like that seems interesting and creative, but also I think that biases players who have that more encyclopedic knowledge of things, and I'm not sure I want to do that.
Sure.
Well, yeah, but
also then you can say more than one thing at a time without while still following the rules.
I think that's fair, but you also have to be creative in order to get that to say the multiple things at one time thing.
Yeah.
And like
that would be a clever rule, I think. And if you know that the other person knows the category you're talking about, then I think it could be okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is where the
crab colors can't be next to other crab colors.
Well, this is where it comes into exploit territory and where the meta can imagine a wiki that has a name for every color combination. And then you just memorize them. And there's a lot, but there's only so many.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it becomes a solved game, Yeah.
In
a sense.
That's fair.
You'd still have to, there would still be a strategy in what order you roll out your rules.
That's true.
And since you only have 4 of them for par, that could be.
I like par as a term for that. That's great.
Yeah.
Even if no one can get it in 4, let's just call it par.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh, I love that. I think those points you're bringing up, Mark, are very important, and I think that it's true that
this also comes from my deep hatred of meta play. I don't like games that reward people who just spend more time with them.
Yeah,
but the whole point I think of Dylan's prompt is to do meta stuff, have a cheat sheet that you use that Scott that you use to solve the game.
Let the game be breakable or solvable.
I think in fact having a sheet with all the color combinations is part of it.
Okay.
Or maybe there's a subset that's allowed every time and you can't use other ones than that or something.
Or, maybe it's all that. You can't say red can't be next to blue. You have to say...
you have to use the categories.
Category B, which includes blue and orange, has to be... You know what I mean? Make it a hassle.
All right, I like that.
Play against human recognition.
Yeah.
I like that. That's not how we played it, but that's okay because we, are just testing it and it didn't work, so we're making new rules. That's how games work.
I mean, even just self-policing, we didn't come up with rules, but we had a sense.
Yeah.
Even that, just as a party game, works perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I think we're trying to be more specific, but I think it holds up to some common sense logic between players. Because the more specific, the less fun it is. So therefore, it motivates players to sort of play within those boundaries. But he's got to worry about the jerks. I suppose
that's true.
Or maybe not per Dylan's prompt about it. I'd forgotten that angle. Of course, why not? But a variation where it's just you have to use this different coded language. It could fit into a theming for the game as well.
Yeah.
So
in terms of the rules we have currently, do we only have 2 definite things you cannot do? Just that you can't specifically place a cube in the sequence, and you can't. And the rule can only involve one relationship between 2 sets of cubes.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that can fit on a note card.
Yeah.
I think that's a good rules. I think if we wanted to release it commercially, we'd want to be a little more specific. But as something to, to share quickly, almost as a party game.
Yeah.
It's something you can teach someone quickly. I think that's actually really good because it says a lot without using a lot of words.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Then I guess I think we have all the rules. So the rules, there's 2 players. The name of the game is Rules. So Rules has 2 players. It has some set of blocks. I guess it can be some variable thing. I don't know. Players can be creative with that.
For the purposes of our notes here and for the version you guys can play at home, why don't we just keep the ones we've got?
Okay.
The colors we have. So that basically we have these, 4 sets of 2, one of 2 other colors. And then it also is 2 sets of 3. And you know what I mean? There's enough combinations in there that we can stick with that for our version. But it'd be interesting if someone to try something out with a larger number, more specific, maybe just 10 color blocks of all different colors and make it more, how would that be interesting? I don't know.
Yeah. We'll have a list of the cubes we use in the show notes. Y'all can use that if you want. Or maybe, pick other things too. That's cool.
You could use color categories from different languages because every language kind of breaks up the color wheel differently.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
You could also make this. There's a ton of ways you could approach this. In fact, this almost lends itself to a game that has a core rule set and then millions of variations.
Yeah.
So one is where you have to use these categories instead that are all mixed up to make it more complicated.
Yeah.
One could be purely encyclopedic. Like you need to say like things that mean this in this thing. You know what I mean? Like
you can only speak one of the languages that like doesn't have half of the color chunks and like puts a bunch of what we see as different colors together.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Or even things where it's based on trivia. So you have like what the engineering division is in Star Trek can't be next to the color of the Planet Express ship. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's great. Yes. Okay. Okay. But for our purposes, we use 10 cubes of these colors. But you can use any set, I think, and any set of different colors and different shapes and sizes. Be creative with it if you want to.
Yeah. And then I think Martha, you hinted at the sort of the next step, the next row of the dot matrix printer.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Like I think I don't think we can really get into that, but I like that just as you could just do sequence after sequence to build an image, or the rules could get different and more interesting later on.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
That's good. I like that a lot.
Be a fun goal for a larger version of this game.
Yeah. So, yes, the code maker creates a sequence of blocks, and you have to, then you create 4 rules to help the code breaker make the sequence. And those rules cannot specifically place a cube in any place in the sequence. Mm-hmm. And each rule can only involve one relationship between 2 sets of cubes. The sets are varied in size. Yes, then you read the first rule and the player creates a pattern based on the rule, and then you just repeat that until your pattern is resolved. Mm-hmm. I guess if you run out of the 4 rules, you have to make a new rule on the fly.
Yeah.
And those are the rules. 2 rules. Sweet.
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah, this is fun. I like this a lot. Yeah.
This is definitely one of those games that like you could have at like a work retreat or like, trust building exercises and stuff.
Yeah.
It totally it really sort of it feels like one of those.
Yep.
Also, I mean, you could probably like get really mad at somebody over like dumb rules or could have problems.
Yep.
Well, that's great. So please try this at home and see what you think, or maybe brainstorm some alterations and send them to us on Twitter, or via email, and let us know what you thought.
Yes.
This was a really great one.
Yeah, it worked out really nicely.
Cool. Thanks again to Dylan for the prompt.
Yes.
He's our engine idea, or idea engine rather.
Yeah, well done.
All right, well, that is our show. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Nice Games Club in your favorite podcast app, and be sure to give it a good review if you liked it, or a nice like us. You don't have to have liked this game, but if you liked the show, please give us a review wherever you can send them. We need to know you're out there, so leave a review. And of course, tell all your friends too. Get them involved, play this game with them, and then bully them to give us a good review. We also want to hear directly from you, so follow us on Twitter and all the other things at Nice Games Club. And you can email us at contact@nicegamesclub with your rule variations and such and so forth. Yeah. Lastly, you can find out more about the show and your nice hosts, as well as get all the links and show notes from this and other episodes, including the rules to this game, at nicegames.club. So until we start again, remember to
play nice
and make nice.
Five? 10? That's 10.
We said 10, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, 10 is... what am I missing? Brown. That's what... Nope. There's 2 browns. 2 browns. 1 pink. Light green.
This section of the podcast is an excellent candidate for editing.
Yeah.
Or maybe not.